So it is 8:35. I will call the meeting to the January 4th, 2023 ELU meeting to order. Roll call members, Kellen Nelson,
Randy Severson,
Stacy Klein,
Dave Larson,
Tony Munson.
Andy Todd,
and we lose staff too.
Haley Passo,
Charmaine Anderson,
Verge Gamera.
Mike Kornman.
All right. I certify that open meeting law requirements have been met with proper posting. We have a 17-item agenda. Entertain a motion.
motion to approve. Second.
Okay, motion made and second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Has everyone had a chance to read through our minutes from December 7th? Any corrections or additions?
I don't remember anything.
Yeah. Okay, move to approve.
second.
Second by Klein. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So at 8:36, I will call the public hearing to order for a land use change rezone from exclusive agriculture 2, EA2 to primary ag, PA, for Brian D. Kriesel of Trempealeau. Go for it.
There will be a public hearing before the Trumbull County Environment and Land Use Committee on Wednesday, January 4th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. in the county boardroom of the courthouse, 36245 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin. The purpose of the land use change rezone from exclusive ag 2 to primary ag on approximately 10 acres, more or less, for the purpose of dividing it for future land sale. Part of the southwest quarter of the southwest quarter, all in section 31. Town 19 north, range 9 west, town of Trempealeau, Trempealeau County, Wisconsin, with the parcel number listed. Hearing is requested by Brian D. Kriesel, Trempealeau, Wisconsin, landowner petitioner. Trumbull County invites you to join this meeting as follows. To provide public comment on these hearings, please call 715-538-1770. Your attendance and comments are encouraged at this hearing. If you are unable to attend and have any questions, please call Verge Gamera with the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1916 or email at verge.gamera@county.trempealeau.wisconsin.us. If you are unable to attend and desire to submit a written comment, please send your written comment to the Department of Land Management, P.O. Box 67, Whitehall, Wisconsin, 54773, or email once again to Verge. Please know that written comments will be read at the public hearing up to 250 words. All written comments must include the name and address of its author and the request that the letter be read at a particular meeting date. Any special interest groups or expert witnesses will be allowed 20 minutes to give a presentation and must register at least 1 week prior to the meeting date by calling Verge Gamera at the Department of Land Management, 715-538-1916. Sincerely, Verge Gamera.
Thank you, Andy. Verge, can you give us an overview?
Sure. I'd like to acknowledge Courtney Kriesel and Justin Scheel, who are here today representing Brian Kriesel. I don't know if you want to come to the table over here. As was mentioned in the publication, the rezone is from exclusive ag 2 to primary ag to sell off the 10 acres to Courtney. It was published in the newspaper on 12/14 and 12/22. Letters were sent to all adjoining landowners. I received no correspondence. I did get a letter from the town, and Courtney and Justin and Brian, I guess, all went to the neighbors, and they have letters that they got signed from the neighbors, which I can read into the record. As was in your packets, there was a letter from the Department of Transportation, because there is a 350-foot scenic easement down there that she will have to adhere to, but according to the letter, she does have their permission to put up these agricultural buildings. The survey was put in your meeting folders yesterday. It shows the survey of the 10 acres. And I know some of you said you couldn't download that. If you need a copy, I do have a copy in my folder here. This is contrary to the land use plan, as it is exclusive ag, and we are rezoning to primary ag. Exclusive ag 2 is one house per 35 acres, and primary ag is 2 houses per 40. If this is approved, it would go to full county board on January 23rd of 2023. And I don't know if you have any questions for Courtney and Justin, or if there's anything they want to add.
Anything you guys want to add at this time, or just here for questions?
I don't think we have anything to add, but and then it'll turn red. There you go. Okay, I don't think we have anything to add, but yeah, if anybody has questions, we're open to questions.
Okay. All right, well, I will open this up to public testimony. If anyone wishes to call, they can reach us in the boardroom here, 715-538-1770. Do we have, would you, oh, Verge is busy. Do you have letter from the town, you said?
Yes, I do. Yes, I have a letter dated November 21st.
Good, maybe it'll make sense that way.
There we go. Okay. I have a letter dated November 21st, 2022, from the town of Trempealeau. It says, "This letter is written with reference to the request by Brian Kriesel and Courtney Kriesel to rezone property described as tax parcel 0280046100000 from agricultural to primary ag in the town of Trempealeau. The board has no objection to the rezone. Sincerely, Town of Trempealeau, Rick Nemitz, Town Chairman."
Okay, thank you, Verge. Again, I'll call for public testimony. You can call the boardroom here at 715-538-1770. And you said you had letters from neighbors, too?
Yes, I have four letters here that Courtney and Justin went around and talked to the landowners, and it's dated October 27th, 2022, and it says, "To whom it may concern, Town of Trempealeau. Brian Kriesel is looking to rezone the southwest quarter of Section 31, Town 19 North, Range 9 West, from its present zoning of Ag 2 to primary Ag," and then it gives the parcel number. "The reason behind this rezone is so that daughter Courtney Kriesel, Justin Shield, can survey and purchase a 10-acre portion to continue the farming ag operations. The current zoning in which this sits would not allow a small acre portion to be surveyed off and purchased. Thus, the reason for the rezone. Justin Shield and Courtney Kriesel plan to rezone, survey, and purchase the 10 acres in which the berry patch sits on. They plan to build 2 additional agricultural buildings once rezone is approved." And then it says, "As adjoining landowners and neighbors, we give our approval for the rezone and expansion of the berry patch operation." And this is signed by Carrie Baby?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And Ryan Baby, Mary Kay Harris, Rebecca Dutton, and I also have one from John Howes.
Okay, thank you, Verge. I'll call one more time for any public comment. You can call the boardroom here, 715-538-1770. And hearing no phone ringing.
Are you building on lot 1 or lot 2?
The inner portion.
This would be
Lot 2.
Yes, correct.
And there's
So
an
right-
existing road right away there or whatever to that lot off Highway 35?
So we will be adding a new driveway off of Kriesel Lane. So were they given the map, this map? Maybe not.
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
But
So we are building right next to the current building, so to the right of that. So I guess it's hard for me to see.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So about 20 feet from the existing building, we are building another building, and then going another 25 feet and building another building. So that will all be, it will all be in line. So here's the existing berry patch. And then the new ag building will be here. And then the other ag building will be here. So I believe it's in the inner of that.
All on lot one, they're running that line.
Right next to
Yeah,
the building.
lot one, yeah, that makes more
Yeah.
sense than lot two.
Yep.
I can't see it. Yeah, I do know.
Here, I can walk this up.
I say it's hard because that one upstairs is
Hard to see.
turned and then you can
I
see.
couldn't twist my head that far.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be to the right of that there.
What we're seeing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this lot
Yeah,
is
be in
Ca-
lot one.
Yes, this is Carrie. She's an existing landowner. So
Okay.
her driveway goes here and then she has a house back here.
Okay.
So we are proposing to rezone
Everything
around
around
her,
her. Yep.
everything around her, so lot one, correct?
that makes sense.
So lot one, where the berry patch sits, the new builds will be, if you're looking at the berry patch, to the right of them. And then the new driveway will come off of Creasel Lane, wrap around the back of the buildings, and then go out.
Okay, yep,
Because after talking to everybody, they wanted an in and an out for safety.
correct, yes.
Off the highway.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee?
This is Creasel.
I'm not sure this is the appropriate time, but according to this letter here, the second to last paragraph, adding 2 ag buildings, processed and sold. Now, would that then require a conditional use off this to be a farm-supported business or anything like that? It does.
agricultural.
So any processing of agriculture is not required?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, okay,
Otherwise, it would be here today.
okay, that was my part 2 of the question.
No,
I believe we looked into that
right,
earlier and they said no.
right.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Courtney or Justin? Okay, hearing none, I will close the public comment at 8:47 and call for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion approved by Todd, second by Klein. Any other discussion? If not, hearing none, I will call for vote. All in favor of approving this rezone, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. It will go to full board, and I think it's January 16th. I think we moved it.
I thought you moved it to January 23rd.
There's a highway convention that week, so we'd be missing board members, so it moved up instead of back.
Well, that would be nice if we were notified of that, because, well, when I looked, it was January 23rd at what I looked at.
County board, last county board is when we set it. Yeah, so that's a clerk's office thing.
Okay, I do have a resolution for you to sign.
Thank you. Okay, so that will complete this one. Looking for my other rezone. I'm struggling to find it. There we go. Now I got it. Okay. So next we will hear a rezone for, from EA2 to primary ag for Todd Brost and Jolene Brost of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Call the public hearing to order at 8:49. Randy, would you read the notice?
There will be a public hearing before the Trempealeau County Environment and Land Use Committee on Wednesday, January 4th, 2023 at 8:35 a.m. in the County Boardroom of the Courthouse, 36245 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin. The purpose is land use change rezoned from exclusive ag 2 to primary ag on approximately 64 acres, more or less, for the purpose of dividing it for a future land sale. Part of the northwest of the southwest in section 15 and part of the northwest quarter of the southeast quarter and part of the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter in section 16, all in Town 24 North, Range 8 West, Town of Unity, Trumpealeau County, Wisconsin, with the parcels listed. Hearing is requested by Todd J. Brost and Jolene M. Brost, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, landowner. Todd J. Brost petitioner. Trumpealeau County invites you to join this meeting as follows. To provide public comment on these hearings, please call 715-538-1770. Your attendance and comments are encouraged at this hearing. If you are unable to attend and have any questions, please call Verge Gamrath with the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1916 or email Verge Gamrath at county.trempealeau.wisconsin.us. If you are unable to attend and desire to submit a written comment, please send your written comment to the Department of Land Management, P.O. Box 67, Whitehall, Wisconsin, 54773, or email once again to Verge. Please know that written comments will be read at the public hearing up to 250 words. All written comments must include the name and address of its author and the request that the letter be read at a particular meeting date. Any special interest groups or expert witnesses will be allowed 20 minutes to give a presentation and must register at least 1 week prior to the meeting date by calling Verge Gamrath of the Department of Land Management, 715-538-1916. Sincerely, Verge Gamrath.
Okay, thank you, Andy.
Okay,
Where can you give us
too many things going on here. Okay, as Randy read, the rezone is to, for 64 acres from exclusive ag 2 again to primary ag, as Todd would like to sell everything south of the DNR trail, or we're rezoning everything south of the DNR trail to sell off the west side of the property. This was published 2 weeks in the newspaper on 12/14 and 12/21. Letters were sent to the adjoiners, and I did hear from one of them, which I can read that to you. I do have a letter from the town. This is contrary to the land use plan, as the land use plan is exclusive ag 2, and this is primary ag again. If this is approved, it will go to full county board on January 23rd.
Okay. Thank you, Verge. I will call for public testimony. If anyone wishes to call and offer comment on this, please call 715-538-1770. And I don't know if Todd was able to get on. Okay.
Yep.
Todd, do you have anything you guys would like to offer, comments?
Yep. So we just want to sell approximately 30 acres to our adjoining neighbor across from the DNR snowmobile trail there. The reason we're not adjoining with him is because that snowmobile trail splits our land. But he crosses my land currently to get to his land. So to sell this land to him kind of makes sense, so he can just access his own property from his own property then. So I really just want to sell the 30 acres to Troy Forcier, the neighbor to the west of me.
Okay, that makes sense. If anyone wishes to call and comment on this, please call 715-538-1770. And Verge, you said you had a letter from a neighbor?
Yeah, I have a letter from the town of Unity, and I also have just an email from a neighbor.
Okay.
And it just says, the email is from Corey Stanek, and it was dated December 22nd. Just says, "Good morning, Verge. This is Corey Stanek and my wife Kim, and I own the land right to the east of Todd and Jolene Brost. I'm wondering if you can send me a map of the area they are looking to divide for future sale. We just want more information on how this may affect our hunting property next to them. Thank you for your time." And I sent him a map of the property. And then I got an email back on later that day, and it says, "Verge, thank you very much. This helps clear things up for us." I was guessing that area far to the west was the area they were selling, but I wanted to verify. We were hoping that this little triangle part right next to our land was not being sold. Thanks for your help.
Okay. Very good. If anyone wishes to offer public comment, please call 715-538-1770, and we'd hear the town's letter now, too.
Okay, this letter is from the Town of Unity dated August 17th, 2022. Says, "To whom it may concern, on August 17th, 2022, the Town of Unity Board members voted on the zoning change for the property owned by Todd Brose south of the DNR trail from Ag 2 to Primary Ag. The board has no objections to this change."
Okay. Thank you, Verge.
And it's signed by the 3 board members.
So if hearing no more, no one calling in, I will close public comment at 8:55 and call for a motion. Motion approved by Klein, second by Larson. Any discussion or questions from the committee? Okay. Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor of approving this rezone, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And this will move on to full county board.
Okay, and I do have a resolution for you to sign also.
Perfect. So next on our agenda, if I can get to it, we have county cost share payment requests.
Okay, so we have one, well, technically 2, county cost share requests here, and it is going to be coming out of the county cost share funds. So it is the Schaefer Irrevocable Trust, and that's for $1,020, and that's going to be going to Bill Silla because it's a rented land, and that's cover crops in the town of Lincoln. And then the Knudsen Trust, again, going to Bill Silla as it is rented land, and that's for $1,207.50, and that is again for cover crops in the town of Lincoln. That's all we have this month. Any questions?
Yeah, any questions for Haley? Thank you for filling in.
Yeah, of course.
Hearing none, any discussion or move to approve?
Just gonna say, it would appear to be kind of a normal thing in business lately, so
Yep.
unless you've found an issue with it, I see no reason why we can't approve.
Just finishing up the last little bit here, and then we'll move on to the next ones.
Okay,
So,
look for a motion.
motion to approve.
Made by Larson, second by Todd. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next, we have cost share conservation project update, discussion, possible action.
More or less just a discussion.
Don't have anything to present at this point?
I have a presentation. Let me get this uploaded here. Okay, so what do you guys see? There we go. Okay, so this should have been put in your packets, but I'm just gonna show it on the screen here just so then we can all have the same stuff here. So, okay, so I have a kind of a overview of projects that have occurred in the last 5 to 6 years, depending on what the data I had. And I just wanted to give an overview and look forward to 2023, just kind of give you guys an update on what's going on here. So, number of projects, as you can see, it's kind of in the same realm for the last 5 years there, and looking to 23, we're looking at about the same number of projects as we have in the last couple of years. Oh, yep, I broke it down into the funding source, sorry. I thought I had it in the wrong order. So again, the same number of projects. I know this is a really large graph, but I wanted to break it down into a kind of different funding sources here. Let me go a little bit bigger so that it's a little easier to see. So you can see in the different years that we had, like in 2021, we had 4 different funding sources. So we had the land and water bond, we had county cost share, we had the large scale trim, and then we used some of the MDV funds. Last year we had 3, and then previous years to that, we only had the land and water bond funds and the county cost share. So we are starting to diversify our funding and try to use up what we can and see what we can do as far as other funding sources as well. So we kind of broke out different areas instead of using all of, just the 2 funding sources. So we're expanding, hoping to get, a little bit of a different diversity of projects along with some bigger cost projects as well. And with how inflation is, we need that extra funding sources, just because projects, the same money that we had in 2018 isn't going as far as it would as it was then. So even though we have the same number of projects, the projects are costing a lot more. So just wanted to give you kind of that understanding there. So now we're going to just move on to kind of the total cost for the projects. So this is the last 4 years and then looking to 23. So we're looking at, for 23 here, we're looking, I think it's close to $230,000 for projects. So we do have some larger cost projects this year and just kind of some, again, bigger projects. In 21, it was one of our larger spending years, but we did have the large-scale trim grants. So we did have some larger projects that the previous employees were finishing up and kind of doing on that scale. So that was one of the kind of the highlights of that year. With 22, with all of us being new, we did take a kind of a step back and trying to really focus on education and learning from our standpoint. But we're still in the realm of kind of that average for 22. So we did finish, I would say, very well for 22. And looking at 23, we're getting pretty good. So again, here's kind of that breakdown. We can see in 21 that trim really surpassed all of our other funding sources just because we did have those 2 large-scale trim grants. And then we also used the MDV funding in 21 for, I think it was 2 or 3 projects. So kind of in the same realm, we're, averaging out throughout the years, which is really good, even with all the changeover and everything like that. So a few key takeaways here is for 2023, we almost have all of our funding sources allocated as of right now, unless somebody drops out or something like that. But right now, with all of our funding sources that we do have, it's pretty much all allocated. So that's an awesome feeling from our standpoint. We have a lot of work coming up. So we're going to be very busy. We have some larger projects. As you can see, I have the types of projects kind of below there. So we have the grade stabilizations. So those are going to be kind of what a lot of people call our dams or dikes or something like that. And we have, depending on how things shake down here, is like 5 or 6 of them. And those are, big money costs, just because there is a lot of earth moving and they're a larger project overall. So again, we're staying with the grass waterways as well. So we have this last year, I think some people started to really see that we can do more than just stream bank and kind of that, those areas. So we're getting more of the grass waterways and grade stabilization. So word is getting out that we do more than just 1 or 2 kind of projects, which I think is, really awesome from our standpoint. It diversifies what we can do and use our funding sources on. We have a good mix, as you can see. We got, grass waterways, grade stabes, stream bank, bluff prairies, trails. We might have 1 manure storage. It might be for a chicken one. And then we do have a small scale trim grant that was approved by DNR for a manure storage in, I think it's the town of Sumner, if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on that one. So that is a 2-year grant. So they can do that project either this year or next year. So it kind of depends on what that landowner is really looking at doing and what they have for funding on their end as well. So I know in the next coming years here, we are looking at utilizing more of those MDV funds and looking at doing more partnerships. So I know in 23 we do have a partnership with NRCS, Trout Unlimited, Independence Elk Rod and Gun, DNR, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So it's really good to kind of more diversify and really make our funding and their funding go further on a lot of our projects. So we don't have any more of the large-scale trim grants. Those ended as of December 31st, 2022. So we are now moving into a different realm of kind of that small scale and then just using the funding sources that we had been. So just kind of wanted to give you an overview. Looking forward into 23, we do have some really great projects coming up, and we're getting into surveying and getting design work done right now. So yeah, questions. Kind of a quick overview.
There's a lot, excuse me, a lot going on.
Yeah.
Any questions for Haley from the committee?
Can you just go over again what the MDV funds are?
Yeah, so that is the multi-discharger variance. It's a DNR program, and that's going to deal with the phosphorus limits from the dischargers. So you have the water quality trading, which is what some of the municipalities do. I believe it's like Arcadia and Galesville, and I think maybe Strom-Oliva area does the water quality trading. And then there's also the MDV program, which is similar but different. I know it's really frustrating, but the money comes to us from the actual dischargers, and then we can use that funding source on projects that reduce phosphorus going into the surface waters. So that could be stream bank, it could be these grass waterways, it could be the grade stabilizations, manure storage, because we are reducing phosphorus heading into the surface waters or the groundwater. We do have to model that. So kind of a really brief overview. I can get you more details if you want. I can email it to you. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Haley? No.
Just a comment, this overview is really great, breaking it down, you know, in like a 5-year look-see,
Yeah.
really nice effort.
Thank you. Yeah, I figured it would be kind of nice to kind of look, instead of just 1 year, I like to kind of look at it from a bigger picture, so then you can see, like, well, then you have a comparison versus just
What's normal?
what's
or
normal, what's not. Yeah,
Right.
so I'm
was
glad
very
you guys
helpful.
like it. So
Yeah. No, thank you.
yeah.
Dawn?
I also really like it. That was a very nice presentation.
Thank you.
The curiosity that I have is there a summary of the actual projects done in 22 that you could provide?
Yeah, I
Or
definitely
Does
can.
all of the committee probably likely knows that because they've been on the committee, but I'm new and I'm just, or is there somewhere I can go that would show
I
me
can
that?
provide that. I can email it out. I can send it to everybody. It was all the cost share payments, but I know those were kind of spread out throughout the year. So I can definitely get that to you guys and just kind of give an overview of what we accomplished in 22 and, you know, kind of give
Looks
you
like
that.
a lot of really good work, so good
Yes,
job.
thank you.
Are there other, and then secondly, are there
Yeah.
is there other grant funding available that anyone in the office is pursuing for 23?
We do have, or Charmaine is pursuing that lakes management grant, which is more for the Trempealeau lakes. And then we did do the MDV funding, but otherwise we don't have any other grants at the moment. We do have our standard bond, our land and water bond funding, which is for the hard practices like what we are doing here. We have the county cost share, which can be used for different things like the projects or some soft practices. We also have the land and water SAG money, which is used for nutrient management and cropping practices. And I didn't put that on there. And we also have nutrient management farmer education, which deals with, again, nutrient management and different classes to help farmers complete their nutrient management plan. And also cost share soil samples for that nutrient management plan.
I believe it's the land and water grant, helps to cover part of our staff, some of our staff salaries.
Correct.
And
Yep.
that's a significant one.
Yes.
That's-
I just don't usually deal with it.
Yeah, that's built into the budget, so we're, that's one we apply for every year.
Yeah. So there's a whole slew of them. We kind of
Okay.
have different areas they work in. So, but we are hoping to, kind of with the partners, that does help as well, getting different funding sources and working together as partnerships. So,
Great, thank you.
yeah.
Okay, any other questions, Dave?
Back on the phosphorus thing you mentioned with the villages, cities. I'm kind of in the dark on that. Maybe I should be more aware. Can you expand? What do they pay? How do they pay? Who charges? What does it amount to? And then
That's
you
a
said
very-
we get to use that when
Large question.
maybe.
So, let me try to condense it here. So with the two different, you have water quality trading. So a municipality can choose either water quality trading or MDV if they do not meet the phosphorus limits placed by their Wisconsin DNR WPDES permit, or maybe the letters are switched around. That's our discharging permit for sanitary systems, like your wastewater treatment system. And if you do not meet that limit for phosphorus, you can apply for these quote-unquote variances, and that's a different program you can work through to reduce that phosphorus within that watershed. So water quality trading works on credits, and you work with usually what we've seen is a municipality works with a private engineer on working with different landowners to get projects on their property, and the municipality pays for all of that project. We're just kind of the signature holder of that whole program. The MDV funds, or the MDV program, the dischargers can then sign up for that, and it's based on a rate of how much phosphorus they discharge throughout the year, multiplied by a rate set forth by the DNR. I don't remember that off the top of my head. I don't know if it's like $50 per part per million. I would have to look at that exactly. And then at the end of the year, I think in March, we start to receive those funds, and they go into an account. I'm not the financial person, so I don't know that part of it. And we have to then work with DNR to model that our projects that we're going to be doing reduce phosphorus in the surface water or groundwater. So we use different modeling sources throughout.
Not
And then
necessarily for the municipalities working with them, it's for a county-wide thing.
it's working with the, within that watershed. So I guess I should have described that. So it has to be within the watershed that the discharger is in.
It's like
So
the Crystal Lake project a couple
Yep.
years ago.
Yep.
Osseo and Levistrom went together because they had credits they needed to use, and that's why it all got rocked.
Okay.
Yep, that's the water quality trading part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has to be used within the watershed that the discharger is in.
Okay.
So Whitehall would be within the middle Trempealeau, so we could use projects within the middle Trempealeau watershed. So pretty much the middle part of Trempealeau County. It's a DNR program that they set forth to help reduce phosphorus within the overall watershed. And then the dischargers do have to reduce their phosphorus on their end as well. They can't just keep discharging, so they do have to work on their plant and also pay. So it's kind of a
Okay.
Interesting.
That's where, okay, now you've kind of where my main question came from.
Okay.
Is this a continuous thing that just, you
pay a
pay
fee
some
to
money
keep
over here, so you
Gotcha.
don't, so you can
They do
ignore-
have to keep upgrading to reduce that phosphorus.
That's good
On a
to
time frame,
clarify.
I don't know what that
Otherwise,
is.
that's not fair.
Yes, I should have led with that, sorry.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good discussion. Anything else for Haley or conservation staff? All right, thank you.
You're
For your
welcome.
hard work. So next we'll move up to County Conservationist Operations Report. Charmaine.
Our 2023 Youth Conservation Speaking Contest and poster judging starts tomorrow. The speakers start at 5:30 p.m. And we have 5 elementary division students, and those 5 are from Ettrick. We have 1 senior division student, and they are from Osseo. We have 86 posters, and those posters will be judged during the day. So we're really excited. We're looking forward to that and listening to the students and see what they present. A lot of my work for this past December, as well as like starting in January too, is that I'm working on the 2022 DADCAP Land and Water Conservation Annual Reporting, and that has questions that are related to the work that we have completed in 2022. Also, I'm working on the 2023 Annual Work Plan, and that just identifies our priorities for our department and our goals and objectives that are described in our county's Land and Water Resource Management Plan. Also, I have been receiving the 2023 annual renewal fees for non-metallic mining, and it's also for the reclamation plans as well. And that is for their, to renew their conditional use permits. So a lot of reporting the past month. We also are looking forward to the Land and Water Conservation state meeting, and that would be, I believe, March 1st to 3rd. So that's another meeting that we're all looking forward to attend.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any questions for Charmaine? Go ahead, Don.
Will you be bringing the 2023 plan to the committee, your work plan?
Yes, I can. Mm-hmm.
I think it would be interesting to see that.
Yep, so it's in the works right now. I believe the due date for that is either February 15th or March, but I can get that to you for next meeting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Chair.
Tony?
Would all the sand mines, the larger ones, are they still complying even though they're not operating? Are they responding to you?
So yes, everybody has been complying. The ones that, when I was doing the inspections earlier this year, if there was something that I thought needed improvements on, I would send them a letter, and I'd give them a date that had to be completed by, and they got it done. So everyone is in compliance.
Thank you.
Yep.
We on the mining stuff, we have 3 mines, frac sand mine, industrial sand mines that are in reclamation phase. So we are in process with that. It's a long process.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you, Charmaine. Next, we'll move on to review of our county uniform dwelling code ordinance discussion, possible action. Mike.
One of the things, questions that was asked at the end of that discussion last time was a question for Kyle and what kind of things he observed as far as, when he did inspections, what issues he saw with detached garages. And when I talked to him about it, he said the thing I don't typically see any issues with standard 8-foot sidewall garages, but when it gets to that 10-foot level, the walls have to be done a little differently. I believe 2 sheets of wood and the seams have to be covered. So because it's an 8-foot sheet of plywood, and then if you're going to go another 2 feet, I think if I understand it correctly, with the second sheet, it's supposed to cover up that seam to add strength. And he didn't get into, he goes, I don't have any kind of stats or data on that. He goes, but that's the kind of thing that he remembers kind of the main thing that would come into play is on those larger buildings. But on the standard 8-foot walls, you don't have that issue. So from a perspective, I guess we're kind of discussing, do detached garages need to be inspected? Or is it separated out, the electric? Or should it be defined not as detached garages and just all accessory buildings of a certain square feet? Because we don't have it's very difficult to define that detached garage piece. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of where we're at there with that discussion, if you wanted to make a change.
Thoughts from the committee at this point?
I believe the state has it by cubic feet. for inspection. Am I correct? I think I'm almost positive on
I
that.
think that's more a commercial thing, isn't
It is more commercial, but I mean, if
Yeah.
we're gonna go, I mean, I'm
It's
just
another-
throwing that out there. It's a situation where if you do a cubic feet or a square foot,
Yeah.
it might be something that's a little easier and set. And then instead of, the taller you get, if you go from 8 feet, there's a cubic feet or a square footage compared to a 10-foot, you got more square or cubic feet.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Taller structure, too.
Taller structure, I mean, things like that, so.
Takes that into
just something to
account a
think
little
about.
bit, yeah.
Do I recall that the questions on the table were whether or not we should be inspecting detached garages at all? And then if yes, we wanted to be able to define what a detached garage that needs inspection is. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, and apply, whether or not accessory structures, again, a better definition, I guess, would be accessory structures than detached garage, because what's an accessory structure versus a detached garage? It really should be defined, yeah. So, the questions are, detached garages, should they be inspected? And then also, again, the minimum requirement by state law is that 1 and 2 family homes, new homes, be inspected. But our ordinance also requires remodels and additions to be inspected as well. So,
And is there any operational challenges with our having higher standards than what are required by law?
operational. The only issue I would say operationally is like on a remodel, it's really mostly a self-reporting, self-enforcing regulation, because we can't go around and look inside people's homes. So when remodels go on, we don't know unless someone comes in.
Or unless they mess with the outside wall. Yeah.
Right. If there's an external wall issue, then we're able to see something. So that's it. Operationally, is that a challenge? Well, there's just limits to what we can do for remodels.
Is there a recommendation that your department has, or what would you prefer to see?
It's really a recommendation. This is a policy decision by the committee. Probably, if anything, I guess I would say, that definition of a detached garage, it puts us in a bad spot, because the definition, it really, if you're gonna do detached garages, it ought to be defined as an accessory structure.
And then probably by a certain footage or other
Yeah, because
components.
a 10 by 10, do you wanna spend time on a 10 by 10 shed? Do you, maybe you do, maybe you don't. That's up to the committee.
Any thoughts from the committee?
I would be inclined to go towards any building 8 feet or less sidewalls, and then come up with some rational square footage along with that as being exempt. I don't know, let's see, typical two-car exposed garage would be 24 by 28 maybe. How does that come out?
Math-wise?
Between 5 and 600?
Maybe less than 600 square feet or something?
Something along that line?
I mean, it's that seems to me like a kind of logical thought process.
The other issue that was brought up last time was the, considering the electric and plumbing issues tied to garages. Of course, what can happen is you build a garage without electric, and something is done later.
Well,
You can only control so much, I think.
Yeah, Verge.
I thought of it since the last discussion that, if we don't inspect detached garages, how are we ever gonna know if someone has living quarters in them? And they can't have 2 residences on a parcel right now.
I would think that would become obvious, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily.
there'd be a vehicle, an extra vehicle around, there'd maybe be a driveway. There'd be, I don't know, I'm just,
I'm gonna say rules are gonna be broken. You can't get away from it. Whatever you do, you can't get away from it. So you just gotta try to do the. Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like electrical, you can put something in there, but after the building's done, 6 months later, they can put their own electrical in, and we're not gonna know it. No one's gonna know it. It can be broken, just like there's a lot of rules that can be, so.
But at
We
least
gotta
at
try to
some
make it.
point, at some point it was, and after that, you have a starting point for, if you want to assign liability or something.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, it's gotta put something on the homeowner too. If something happens at that point, then a person can maybe do something when it comes to insurance. I don't know what the deal is, but where do you stop and start?
there again, when you start talking about that, if they're semi-responsible even, they're gonna insure their building if they have anything of any value. And based on my own experience, these insurance inspectors do a pretty fair job of checking this stuff out before they write insurance for it.
I mean, if they're there for construction, but once it's constructed, they
Yeah.
wouldn't
Well,
have to do
no,
anything.
I've, granted, in 50 years, I've had my whole buildings inspected 3 different times by the same insurance company that I've carried. So every so often,
Come do a check.
right,
Yep. Which is good on their behalf.
yep.
Dawn, you look like you have a thought.
I do, I'm just not sure if it's the right thought. I guess I would, I don't feel like I know enough, personally anyway, to define what you're looking for, but I would be willing to do some research, and, or maybe get some comparisons to support a recommendation from your department. So I would put a motion out there that the department determines what they would like to see defined for square footage, and all of those other pieces for us to review, maybe a couple of different options for our consideration. Is that reasonable?
I think if you can do that, that'd be a good idea to have something to look at and say, okay.
Help us guide our conversation.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Mark, you had a few comments last time. I can't remember exactly what, relating to, lending institutions.
I guess I don't remember, but I guess I mean, I don't know what, we can come up with any perfect definition. I mean, we got a definition right in our ordinance that basically states what it's used for. There's a lot of other ones that determine it based on the limited amount of stalls and all that sort of stuff, but.
Yeah, Mike.
Square footage.
Can you get on, Mike?
Thanks, Drew.
Got a friendly reminder.
Either you change it or just leave it alone, I guess, or take it away and leave it alone. I guess one way or the other. I mean, adding more to it, I don't think accomplishes anything, as far as the square footage. I mean, people are building big garages these days, but I don't know, I guess. I mean, it was brought up that to discuss, my sense was even the necessity of it all is what I got out of it, and I don't think by not having inspections doesn't mean they're not supposed to be building these things to a standard, so.
Stacy?
Mike, you had mentioned the accessory buildings. Do we have an actual definition for that, or how is that listed out?
It's not listed in this particular ordinance. It's, for whatever reason, when this ordinance was drafted, and there's not much of a definition, it was detached garages.
But is there a generalized definition outside of that ordinance for what an
Oh,
accessory
sure.
building is?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Would you be able to share that definition with us off the top of your head? Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. Probably not.
Fair
But
enough,
but
fair
it's
enough.
but it's pretty common. Pretty common. It's just the detached garage. How I think over the years it's been applied. Well, if it has an overhead garage door.
For me, ultimately, I'd like to see us do what's right for ensuring safety, but also what's reasonable from an operational standpoint, right? And so that's where I'd like to see you guys put together a couple of potential options that can be presented to the committee that we can maybe independently research and just define and determine a path for you.
I think that'd be helpful, maybe as it is now, you know, so we can have a good understanding of what we're trying to do, and then maybe how it could look in different ways, so.
Yeah, I mean, and we might be able to kind of, start editing the existing ordinance, so you can kind of see that, kind of combine some generalized language, and then maybe, start editing that ordinance thing, say, hey, this area of the ordinance would need to change to reflect whatever options you choose, but we could maybe do something like that, but we can hone in on that for the next meeting.
Okay. Mr. Monson?
Well, if we change, say, the size of a detached or whatever, how about, then their excuse would be, well, our deck will be less than this, we don't need a building permit, we don't need anything. So do we broaden it that way too, to cover this or that, or?
Well, and again, new homes, if it's part of a new home, that's.
That's under the building permit.
Yep.
But what if it's 10 years later down the road, I want to build a deck and
Well,
put
our
in a
ordinance
patio?
says additions, so if it's attached to the house, it's an addition.
It's an addition.
Yep. Not a separate building.
So what's the definition of an addition? Sidewalk attached to the previous?
It's not
addition?
attached unless you drill into the foundation with rebar.
Okay. There's the definition, there you go. Because, I mean, a breezeway from a house to a garage would be attached, would it
Yep.
not?
And that would then make that building become attached.
Correct.
Yep.
And all of these things happen.
Yes. After the fact.
Yep. That's what makes this a sticky one.
Correct.
Question. Because I'm trying to remember from last time, I was looking through the minutes and it's not jumping out, but did we discuss, have you consulted with other counties to see how they have this worded in the ordinance?
And other, a lot of places, counties don't do building permits. It's done by the municipality, either the town, village, or city. So it's really different throughout the entire state. And it's all over the map. Sometimes a community will say, hey, we'll do the new homes, no permit for remodels, no permit for additions. Others will say, hey, if it's, I know a community up north, if it's an addition over 1,000 square feet, then you need a permit.
Pretty big.
A lot of places do not require permits for detached garages and accessory buildings.
If I remember correctly from last month, we were told that Jackson County does new homes only, nothing else.
Correct.
So that's one
Yeah.
example, right?
Is there anywhere easy to get that information? Like, I know it's all over the board, right? But would there be any way to get an idea, a sense from, say, a random look at 10 counties in Wisconsin and see what they do? Or would that be asking for a lot?
You can't just go to the counties. You have to go to every municipality in each of those counties because
I see, sure.
This county, whatever the history was, along with the municipalities, decided to do it this way.
Countywide.
So you have to go to every municipality adjacent.
That would not be feasible.
Yeah. Might be more feasible to look at the municipalities in adjacent counties. It gets harder with La Crosse because you have all the suburbs and things like that, and Eau Claire because you just have a lot more, I think, municipalities. But I mean, it's a grind, because it's a lot of work to do that, go through that, but it could be done.
I'm a little surprised with all of the regulations that there isn't a clear definition from the state. Is there a standard?
In Uniform Dwelling Code, it is not required to do detached garages, and so I don't believe, well, maybe they do, but if you're not, they're only regulating single and two-family homes, which only includes a garage if it's attached. So then it's not it's a garage, but it's attached, so it's part of the home.
And I think part of that thinking comes down from, quote, the safety standpoint, because once you attach something to a home, where people are living, sleeping, that's when the safety issue becomes a higher priority than a detached building.
Because you have auto, gasoline, you have firewall between the house and the garage. You also frost footings and stuff in the ground, so you don't want that garage to move
Right.
with the house and that kind of stuff. So
I don't know, I like the idea what you were saying, don't call it a garage, and if you do cubic feet instead of square feet, that helps when it comes to how high you can have it. You know what I'm saying, if you're gonna go too high, that means you're gonna have a smaller garage. So it just, I mean, I understand that if it's over 8 feet, then you have that issue. But it eliminates some of that, because they don't wanna do a smaller garage to make it less cubic feet, just to make it higher. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Okay.
we can bring some options, kind of minor changes, grading, and up to more major changes, and
Okay.
at least that'll kind of give you some options to pick and choose from and/or modify.
Yep. I think that would be good progress and help us with a good discussion, so. Anything else on this subject? Otherwise, we will move on to our 23 contract for surveyors services, discussion and possible action. I see Joe has joined us, and this is ongoing from last month's discussion.
I think Joe's had more conversations with Corporation Counsel on some things here, so perhaps Rick can...
Welcome, Rick.
Can address the contract.
I think where it stands at right now is just the insurance provision issue and how that's going to look. I think everything else has been ironed out, and Joe can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
The only thing I would suggest, or question I would have for you, Rick, is I had emailed you some potential changes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Are those satisfactory?
Yeah, there's nothing in there that causes any concern. Nope.
Okay. So then it looks to me like I had asked Rick about the possibility of being insured under the county's policy. He gave me some valid reasons why that can't happen. So I guess I'm insurance hunting if I want to keep working here. So.
Just for the committees, the reason why putting the insurance coverage from the county over Joe is the IRS is going to look at whether or not he's an independent contractor or an employee, and there's a test that they look at, and covering him with our insurance would potentially or likely fail that test, and he would be considered to be an employee. So then we would need to start looking at benefits and payroll deductions and things like that, if instead of the independent contractor payments like we have it set up. So that was the rationale as to why that wouldn't work. In regards to the insurance, I know there was some discussion about the levels of insurance. The industry standard is the commercial general liability at $1 million, and professional liability at $2 million. This committee can certainly agree to lower those thresholds in regards to the cost, what it's going to cost Joe ultimately to get that insurance, and then how that would be factored into the hourly rate that would be part of the contract. Those are really kind of where we're at right now, is what would those numbers look like? So.
I've done some work, a little bit of work on that. Obviously, to get a concrete number, I have to actually apply for it.
Right.
Which makes Rick's contract look small. So I guess that's the next step, is applying for the insurance. Mike had sent me an email indicating that he had done some preliminary research where he thought it would be, what, 35 to 5,000. That's, I think, a little bit on the high side. I found out that when I don't have 6 employees, I don't have to pay $15,000.
Oh.
When I'm LLC, they just look at me. So, and as an LLC, the only, I'm not required to have workman's comp insurance as an LLC. So I'm assuming the workman's comp part of the insurance aspect in the contract would drop off. Rick?
If you're not required to have it, correct. Yep, then it would fall off then. Yep.
So I'd be looking just at the commercial liability and the professional liability. Did you say benefits? I like benefits.
If the IRS were to determine you're more of an employee than an independent contractor, then we have to look at whether or not you'd be eligible for benefits.
If we want to postpone this for 5 years, you can call the IRS and ask them.
Again, it would be the whole test as to whether you're an independent contractor or employee.
I think I get it.
So, yeah.
So I guess to compensate for the insurance, we'd be looking at an hourly rate. I think Mike had talked around $8 an hour based on the preliminary numbers that he saw. Based on the preliminary numbers I saw, it would be in the lower end of Mike's estimate or Mike's findings. So I'm thinking it would be less than the 8. It'd probably be somewhere more in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 or something like that. But that's something I can get from my insurance agent. And we'd also talked about the amount of insurance. So,
Any thoughts from the committee as far as what we should require, what's reasonable, the 1 million, 2 million, or a lesser amount, or?
One and one?
dollars? I don't care.
Or do you want more?
because
Do you want to carry more if you're going to?
I don't want any more. In fact, I think I made it pretty clear last meeting, I didn't want any.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand Rick's concern, I understand Mike's concern. I also have concerns about having insurance sometimes. All of a sudden, I'm a target. I'd rather have you guys the target than me the
Sometimes if you have
target.
too much insurance, you become an attractive nuisance.
Well, insurance had a lot to play with why I sold my business. I think I mentioned that before, too. But that's a moot point at this time. So I would prefer to go as low as I can. I would suspect that some insurance companies, especially on the professional liability, will say, yeah, we don't write a policy that small.
That's, yeah, what is the lowest, yeah. Yeah.
Assuming the state standard is 2 million, that's as low as they'll go.
Could be.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then that's what we have to accept.
I think committee's probably willing to entertain different options from you that way. And that kind of depends on what they will issue you,
Exactly.
If there is a state minimum, that could throw, whatever we say doesn't matter, whatever you want doesn't matter. But we want to work with you on it.
Well, I don't know if there's a state minimum.
I don't either.
To be honest with you, but the only person that could probably answer that I know of would be the underwriter for my insurance agent.
Yeah.
Of course, they work in probably 50 states, so they should know that, I would think.
Have you had any problems in the past?
No.
Umbrella, could that work on something like this or not? Because they're cheap.
You're going where my thought was.
Umbrella
If
policy.
you want more, do your personal umbrella to cover over and above
just
that.
check into that, see if your
what I
personal
do.
umbrella would take care of it. $1 million personal umbrella is pretty easy to get and cheap.
I remember checking into something, I think they have a name, a term that's this long. They don't call it umbrella anymore. They call it something a lot more now. But when I did have the business, because that was much more reasonable,
Umbrella.
and maybe with the sole proprietor, that might be more feasible. With 6 employees, it wasn't
Sure.
at the time. So that's possible, too. But I don't know if that would satisfy the need. I think we're getting to a point where the cost per hour isn't cost prohibitive, so I'm not sure if we want to continue looking at options. I guess my thought is I'd like to get to work and get busy.
I think that would
And be
be
done
what we
with
would
this.
like as well. So how would you like to, Stacy, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to confirm, and then the ranges you gave us, that's what the current coverages that we had in mind, or that we already discussed, right?
Yeah, 4 to 6.
Right,
Yeah.
the 1 million, 2 million.
Yep, okay.
And $3,500 a year isn't in my mind, isn't cost prohibitive.
No.
Albeit I hate to write a check come January 1 for $3,500 where I haven't for 26 years, but I keep pushing that button, don't I? So,
Nobody likes writing an insurance check, but if you need
yeah,
it, you need
no,
it.
I get it. I get it.
So,
Just, can we do anything today on a
so what,
tentative basis that the contract that you've got, we've agreed to? Is that where, we're at? The, other than insurance, everything in the contract is agreed to? Did I hear that right?
I think you two have worked through the rest of the contract and everything's okay.
Correct. I think it's just adding that cost to the hourly rate is what he's
Right.
still
It's the last
factoring out.
piece.
Yep.
And
Mhm. Yep.
and so I'm saying if we, okay, that, subject to, so he can get started, subject to whatever that comes
No
out
more
to
than
based on an
X
hourly
amount of
rate.
dollar per hour.
I mean, at this point, does it make sense to just move forward with an hourly rate and wish Joe the best as far as figuring out what works for him? And I don't know, thoughts, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the way it's worded right now is there's an hourly rate in there, and then in parentheses behind it says to be determined based on insurance. So certainly, we could proceed with it once, and then maybe by the next meeting, have that number solidified.
Right.
And then that can be added on to, I think it's been going that way for a while, so I think one more month should be
Probably okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So we certainly could do it that way, and then just by
Yep.
next meeting, have that number.
Okay. I think would that seem okay with you, Joe?
And I
I'll
should
dig into
make sure that Mike is okay with that as well, too, since it's his department.
Okay, this
So
seems
do we
logical.
need a motion to
I think
go
we
with
should
this?
have a motion then.
I'll make it a motion if I can try to clarify that the contract as presented here today, we accept with the hourly rate
To be
based on
determined.
insurance costs to be determined by next month.
That would make sense to me. Second by Todd. Any other discussion, comments from Mike? I'm good. All good? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
We will see you next month.
I'll get you over a clean copy, too, with the changes.
And next, we have, we need some recommendations for appointments for our citizen appointments for our town's representative and livestock producer.
I believe these appointments are up in April, but don't like to leave these things to the last minute. Our current citizen reps for livestock is Randy Severson, and for the towns is Tony Munson. They're both interested in continuing, so if the committee would like to forward a recommendation to the county board chair, county board chair makes those appointments with confirmation from the county board. So if the committee wants to make a recommendation to the county board chair.
I
they
have no
can.
problem making the recommendation, but is there any situation where we need to open it up to the public or anything like that, or we just,
To my knowledge.
these two are interested, so we go with it?
Don't have
We
to.
can
If you
if-
want to, you could.
I see no reason not to move forward personally, but
Make a motion to send those two names on to the county board.
Second.
motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah. Get to keep working with you guys.
I will share this with the county board chair and the clerk, and hopefully this will get on the agenda for the next county board meeting.
Okay, very good. Next thing we have is our director operations report.
Yeah, just a few things. The fiscal coordinator position is currently posted. That was Becky Arnson. Her last day was last Friday, and she's moving on to a great opportunity. She did a tremendous job for the department, and also did a very professional job of in the transition and helping us move on in filling in with current staff and as we recruit for the next person. She did a fantastic job, and we
She'll be
will
missed.
miss her.
Yeah. Already is, I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to replace a person like Becky, so we will attempt to do that, though.
Yep. And Charmaine mentioned earlier in the meeting, the Land and Water Conference is in March. One thing of note, we haven't had an in-person conference in probably since 2020, maybe?
Probably
2019. 2019. So everyone, I think, in the conservation world is really excited to have a conference and see our colleagues face to face, and really, because we do learn a lot from our colleagues. Haley's going to be presenting at the conference on online sales and tree and shrub program.
Very cool. Yeah.
We
Just note that is the meeting, so you'll have to think about March's ELU meeting, so not to interrupt, but.
Yeah.
I was kind of, when you mentioned the dates earlier, I was like, yep, pretty sure that'll be a conflict, but we will work through that.
Yep.
Thank you, Virg.
So, yeah, that's a really important conference for a lot of our staff to go to.
Absolutely.
But we're all very excited for that. One last thing of note, and this bridges the gap between PTED and ELU. Sometimes we have overlap, and Dawn was there. We had, and I think some of you are aware of the county-owned lots in the village of Trempealeau. Remember that easement?
Yep.
We have multiple lots in that floodway area down in the village. We, early 2000s, received those from FEMA. FEMA bought the homes, tore them down, gave them to us. We cannot sell them. We can do very little with those lots. And so we had talked yesterday a little bit, and the idea was to try to, let's make some prairie restoration for those. Of course, we would need to get permission from the village because they have an 8-inch grass limit, height limit. So we'd want to get permission on that. And then in between yesterday's meeting and today, we were talking about, there's 2 or possibly even 3 lots that go up to the wildlife refuge. And the lake really isn't that far from the property boundaries. So one of the ideas we thought we're going to investigate and talk to the the refuge and see if they're interested in possible additional access points.
Mhm.
Whether it be a dock, in other places in the state, there's handicapped duck blinds. That could be a possibility. But again, some of those improvements might have to happen on the refuge property, but the access to get there, maybe parking, a path, whatnot, we can help with. A number of these lots are not on the lake, so we could potentially be doing kind of some prairies and pollinator things and add that in. But again, we'll be pursuing and researching to see if the village is interested in allowing that to happen.
That'd be good.
So we're gonna do some homework there. That's the overlap there between committees. If we do have a willing partner with the refuge as far as recreation and those kinds of things, we'll work with both committees to work that out.
Very cool. Randy?
Hey, Mike, is that different land than the areas that we're trying to rent out for camping?
Same lots.
Same lots, but that didn't go well?
We can't do that. The village floodway ordinance, zoning ordinance does not allow us to do any camping or structures because of the floodway. There's like one lot that's out of the floodway, but it's in the floodplain. There's multiple lots, and most of them are not adjacent to each other, and it's scattered about. But anyways, I think we still can do some conservation work in the form of prairies and pollinators, those kinds of things, and so we'll look into those.
Okay, Dawn, looks like you.
Well, I was just going to say, I think the PTEC committee's recommendation was to bring those lots to the land and conservation team to make a best determination for what would make good sense for current needs in Wisconsin. Although we didn't have the information about potentially looking at the options for access to the lake. So
It
that
came out-
was
yeah.
new, so that's great.
Yeah.
But I just think that this team needs to make a decision as to what the best use of that property is, with the idea being that it has purpose for something versus just sitting vacant.
Yep, agreed. I think it's a
And
good
with
idea.
some, if we were to do it as a prairie, we have a prairie expert on staff, and once we get the prairie established, the amount of maintenance would probably be less. Maybe we burn it periodically, but, mowing it
Wouldn't have-
throughout the summer, hauling the, the lawnmower down there, and, that is time consuming and requires cost and staff time. If we have it as prairie, long-term, it's a lot more cost-effective, and it helps the environment.
Yeah. Good thoughts. Anything else on the director's side to report? Thank you, Mike. Anything from the committee they'd like to consider for future agenda items? We got a pretty good list already, but if anyone has something else in the front of their mind, we can. Yeah. But, hearing none, our next meeting date is set up for Wednesday, February 1st. Is that still good with everyone, 8:30?
We'll have March meeting date discussion.
Yes, we can, do you want to do that now, or do you want to wait till we get to February 1? Figure things out a little better.
Maybe everyone should check their schedules in the meantime, between the. Yeah, I'd have to look at the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, first, second, third, I think, were dates you guys thrown out. So tentatively could look at maybe doing the 8th, which would be a 1 week late or something.
On a Wednesday again.
It'd be still a Wednesday. Stick with that.
Okay, we'll look at
We'll
it.
tentatively talk that through.
And we'll look.
Look at calendars.
Look at a meeting room and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
There's no way we can do it the 8th of February, though.
You don't like the first?
I'm gonna be gone. I mean, I don't have to be here, I guess, but it's up to you guys. I mean, it's just a thought. I don't know where everybody's at with it, but if you can't, you can't.
I'm sorry, you're looking for a different date in February?
Yeah, I won't be here on the 1st. I get a free vacation that week, you guys. All expenses paid, I gotta go to that.
Well, I would take that over being here, so.
So, it's up to
Because
you
we aren't
guys.
gonna give you a free vacation. Headache maybe, but not a vacation. Well, I think at this point, we will, do you have something, Don? Go ahead.
I apologize for being late. I looked at the calendar that gets sent out by the clerk, and that has this meeting at 9.
Saw that on the calendar. I mentioned it to somebody.
Not via mail, apparently, because I have a hard copy. Okay. Okay, so I guess the only thing I was wondering is how that calendar gets put together and ensuring accuracy.
It's a clerk's office issue. We've been doing our meetings at 8:30 for, 6-8 months anyway.
Yeah.
Something like that, probably 8 months or so.
Whoever was writing on the calendar.
I mean, it was
It hasn't
9
been
for
changed.
years.
It was
Easy-
9, yeah.
Easy mistake.
I mean, it's the wishes of the committee. If we would like to do it at 9, we can certainly go back. 8:30 is fine too.
No, 8:30 is fine with me. I just want to be sure
okay.
I'm
Yeah,
timely.
I'm guessing a clerical issue at the clerk's office, so. Okay,
Just for clarification.
Yes.
Wednesday, February 1st, and then we're on March 8th.
tentatively, we'll discuss that on, yeah. More than likely, we'll have, hope, if everybody's schedule will make the 8th work, then we'll go with the 8th.
And public
Well,
notices.
public hearings, but
Yeah.
this is fine.
Yeah, we won't have staff on the 1st, so we don't have a lot of choice. We'll move it, but anything else from the committee, staff? Otherwise, thank you all, and we will see you in a month. Meeting is adjourned.